I'm not sure who this is meant to be. Hey people, it's Temi if you're new here, and it's time for another art roast video. If it's your first time seeing one of these videos from me, then you might not know it's not a complete roast, so I'll be giving positive feedback as well as bits for improvement. So I'm looking on the hashtag Terminators on Instagram, and let's go. And ooh, this is the first one I've seen. So I already know this is meant to be a portrait of me because I recognize that picture. So thank you for drawing me. I just want to say the way you've captured my skin tone, the way you've blended in the skin colors, the glow, the eyeliner, everything is really looking snatched, even down to the edges, the purples I can see in some of the shadows. I love the fact that for the neck shadow, you've gone really deep and dark. So I already know you're off to a great start. The shine of the hair, the use of the white pen for the sharpest highlights, you've done a fantastic job. Now for improvement, so the first thing that comes to mind are your proportions. I don't know if this is completely stylized, but if you are going for realism, you need to get the proportions together. The eyes, the whites of the eyes will never be complete white. So you want some of the gray shadowing for where the lid goes over the eye a little. You really want the proportions to be tight. I've got a video all about proportions coming soon, and I think that will really help you just to get the proportions together. But I think you've done a fantastic job. This is a great start, so well done. This next one is another portrait. In exact contrast, I think you've got the proportions down amazingly. It's not easy to draw someone that's coming from an angle, but you've done a fantastic job. So I think you've got the likeness and all of that down. Points of improvement. Firstly, with photographing your work, it doesn't look bad, but it definitely doesn't stand out. What you can use to improve it is to photograph with daylight if you've got lamps that you can use, and even post, so you can edit this. You can use Photoshop or some other free apps. I think getting a clearer, better photo of this will be amazing. But in terms of the actual drawing, what I want you to improve on are your values. Values looks at the lights and darks in the piece. I don't think you've gone quite deep enough with your dark tones in the drawing. The hair, we want some depth with the shadows, you know, the shadows near the root. Hair kind of flows in like shadow, highlight, shadow, and I think you can definitely improve there. Same with the values and the features. So on the face, I can see that you've kind of gone there with the eyes, but you want to go even deeper. So I have a video about improving your realistic graphite drawings, and I think it'll really help you. In that video, I talk about a tonal values card that you can use, and it just shows you the wide range of values. So you can see that you're kind of stuck in the mid-range. You want to go even deeper to the darkest, deepest blacks. Another tip here is to actually use a black coloring pencils for the deepest darks. Once you put that black color pencil on, it will just show you immediately in context, yeah, you're not going quite deep enough. Next, we have another portrait, and I think you've done a fantastic job. In exact contrast, I think you've done great with your values. So the deepness and darkness of the hair, the eyes, and the lightness of the cheeks, you know, the brow bone. I think you've done an amazing job. Also, well done for the effect with the hair. It just looks so fluffy, so beautiful. You've really got smooth skin. I can tell that you spent a lot of time blending, so well done. For improvements, I can see that you've got your highlights and you've got your shadows, but we just want you to improve on your midtones. So basically the direct blend from highlight to shadows. And also kind of with your proportions, it's kind of hard to tell without the reference picture, but something about it just feels a little bit off with the proportions of the face and then the size of the actual head. And finally, I know I praised your blending, but I want you to then go another layer on top with the actual details, you know, some of the pores that we'd be able to see in the skin, some of the details coming back in the hoodie. Is that a hoodie? Some of the eyelashes, you know, just the extra bits of detail. To me, this doesn't feel like it's complete yet. Use that tiny eraser to come back with some details. Use your small pencil. Is that a mechanical pencil? Use all of that for the extra details, and it will level this up so much. Next, we've got this one, and I'm not sure who this is meant to be, and it's really hard to tell without a reference picture. But I think this is painted, so well done. It's not easy to use paint and to mix all of these colors. I think you have a really nice skin color, and the hair, it looks like a really good start. Also, and I don't want to minimize this because you might be a beginner, but I think the fact that we can even recognize that this is a woman, I feel like that's a fantastic start. Again, it's really hard to critique things if I'm not sure of your intention. It's really hard to tell if this is stylized, but if you're going for realism, the first thing that comes to mind are your proportions. Just like I was saying earlier, you want to make sure that you've got your proportions right, and even down to some basics. So for example, the eye is not equal, so one is up there, one is over there. You want to make sure that you've got those basics down in the first place so that it just looks complete. Also, I'm not really sure why her eyebrow is doing this. Again, it's hard to tell without a reference. So my first point of improvement for you would be to just take longer with your sketch and pay more attention to where the features fall. And I think that would be a first step to just make this an amazing painting. Okay, now we've got this eye drawing, and I really love the fact that you challenge yourself. So firstly, the colors, the blue of the eye is so beautiful, and well done for doing this. It seems like a pretty big scale, so well done. done. And just reading your caption, this was a very hard piece. Eyes are just a different level of skill, especially the lashes, but I think it turned out okay. Quite happy with it, actually. You should definitely be proud of yourself because I think this is a fantastic start. Also, well done for the shading. I can see that you started to do some shading. You didn't leave the whites of the eyes white. You've got some shading around there. You've also got some shading around the skin, so well done. And finally, I think the way you colored the pupil is just beautiful. The blues, the way, it just stands out amazingly. It just stands out amazingly. And I think that's probably my favorite part of this drawing. It just really looks beautiful. So points of improvement, eyes have reflections. And I think that's really what adds to the realism. So you would have reflections of the eyelashes on the actual pupil of the eye, but you'd also have the white. So I can see that you've left a little bit of space for reflection, but what will help you is a white pen or white acrylic paints with a small enough paintbrush or one of those corrector pens like Tipex. That will really help you just for the actual, it's really hard to say without the reference, but I know for a fact this would have had some of the sharpest reflective highlights. So you're definitely missing that. And also the eyelashes, I know you said it was difficult, but I want you just to be a little more brave. The eyelashes that you've drawn here are tiny. And the reality is for an eye of this size, the eyelashes will be a lot bigger. Again, hard to say without the reference, but just be braver with where it's going and really try to see what you're looking at in the reference and try to imitate that. Not what you think should be there, but actually what should be there. And the final thing would just be with the blend of the skin. It looks to me like you shaded it a little and maybe use like a blending stump or tissue paper. What can help with just a smooth, even skin is if you use charcoal or graphite, shade that on a separate bit of paper and then dip the tissue or your finger in that and then use that to blend. I really hope that makes sense. But again, in the video I mentioned earlier about improving your realistic graphite drawings, that video will help you because I go through some other tips that will help you improve the graphite part of the piece. But this is a great start, so well done. Now we've got this beautiful portrait. I just love it. Like, she is glowing. I love the way you rendered it. I love the skin color. I love the look. I love the gloss that you've put. The lip gloss is popping. All of the highlights. I just love what you've done with this piece. Also, I love all of the supplementary colors I can see. So I could already tell that you watch my videos because I could see the oranges. I could see the purples. I think this is a fantastic drawing. And even just reading the caption, just a cute little portrait. Also wanted to say a huge thank you to Temi because her videos have taught me to use colors that I would never think to use for highlights and shadows. The tips and tricks have really helped me as a tiny 14-year-old artist on Instagram. Like, age 14, you should be so proud. This is a beautiful drawing. So points of improvement, the first thing comes to mind are the proportions. You have done a pretty good job on the proportions, but there's a tiny part of it that just feels a little bit off with the eyes. I don't know what it is about it. Worry and spend a bit more time with your proportions. And the second thing, I've mentioned it a few times in this video, but the whites of the eye won't just be complete white. So you want some shadowing there and you're definitely missing that a little bit. Finally, I just love your detail so much, like all of the gloss, this and that. I just feel like it adds a really nice stylized style to this drawing. So I'm not mad at that at all. And I think this is a fantastic, beautiful start. And I'm so encouraged to see you creating this kind of art with my tips and tricks, the few videos that I've got up. The last thing I'll mention is to do with the skin. I think you've achieved great colors. Like I mentioned, I like all the extra colors that you're using, but this might come down to the paper you're using. But then my next step for you is for an even smoother blend. So for example, with the forehead blend, I think another layer will just help you get an even smoother blend and an even smoother transition. But honestly, this is such a beautiful piece. You should be so proud of yourself. Okay, I guess today is the day of portraits because we've got another portrait here. And I really love the colors in this piece. You know, I love the purple background and the skin. I love the fact that you were brave enough to go in with these sharp, bright colors. And I think it's a really nice palette for this piece. Again, it's kind of hard to tell if something is stylized. So I don't know if you're trying to achieve realism. And just in case it's stylized, I guess I don't want to harp on about proportions. But just like I've mentioned a few times in this video, the whites of the eyes aren't complete white. So I think even with stylized work, you can still get those shadowing in there to just add some level of detail. And also just in terms of the lights and shadows in general, again, very difficult to tell without the reference picture. But just assuming the light is coming from this side, where you have the pinky fuchsia kind of color, to me, that's not a dark enough value. So it's a good color to have, but especially compared to the brown of the skin. So if you change this picture to black and white, it will have very similar values. So in that sense, it doesn't have the three-dimensionality that it should have. What you can do to improve in your painting stage is to take a photo of the painting and just change it to black and white and really see and play around with the colors that will just help take it a step further. And the final thing are just some extra details. You know, maybe start by painting your background first. It looks kind of like you went around the portrait to do the background. And I think it's much more seamless when the background is painted first and then you do the portrait in the foreground after. But this is a really cool style and I really like seeing all the dynamic colors in this piece. And for this portrait, I really like this cute style. Again, it's kind of hard to tell when something is stylized, but I love the flow and the texture that I can see in the hair. I think it's beautiful. And also, I think your proportions are pretty good. The nose seems a tiny bit off. It seems a little bit far from the roof of the mouth, but again, kind of hard to tell without a reference. For improvements, it's just a little bit 1D, a little bit flat. So you want some shadows in the face. You want some shadows by the neck that kind of blends downwards. You want some highlights in the hair just to bring back some gloss. You want some sharp highlights in the eyes. So again, like with a white pen, with white opaque paint, you can achieve that. And again, kind of hard to tell if it's stylized, but I prefer less outline so I can see the outline of the lips, the outline of the tongue, outline of the teeth. You want that to blend a little bit more. So the softer shadows to separate these features rather than, you know, a big outline. But overall, I really like this portrait. I love the wispy hair, the, you know, edges that I can see. It's all cute. And that's where we're going to finish off today. If you want your art to be roasted next time, use #Teminators on Instagram so I can see it. Thanks for watching. And I'm sure you love the other art roast videos.